Good day from WA. Hi, this is Julie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being with me today. And also thank you so much to the new people who've subscribed to my channel, and thank you to the people who've returned and watched my videos and commented and liked the video. Very much appreciated. So today we're going to be looking at obviously junk journal in July and some pages that I've done since I last did a video. I was really looking forward to doing botanicals because obviously that's one of our favourite things in the junk journal world, and vintage, of course, everyone's favourite. So I'm leaving that page for highlights. So this is my first Botanicals double page spread. So once I'd finished this, I wanted to do another one, so I've done another one straight away. As soon as I saw the prompt for Botanicals, I knew that I wanted to do Edith Holden for that prompt. So that was easy. Went to the book that I'm cutting up. I've got like 3 or 4 copies of Edith Holden's Country Diary, but I've got one that I'm using as fodder for collaging. So I had this piece of this violet, sweet violet, and it's called Viola adorata. And that, to me, botanicals meant drawing in a realistic way and then using the botanical names, the Latin names. And of course that's what Edith Holden used to do. She would always paint it in a fairly realistic way and always put the name of the flowers and the birds on her pages. So I chose to do it on this particular page, which has the bee orchid as a background page. Edith Holden paintings on the background there. And I just chose to have the purple, just to highlight the purple and to kind of like brighten it up, because sometimes if you use only Edith Holden and you ink everything, it kind of looks all, you know, kind of brown and one tone, and sometimes I prefer a bit of color. This poem was a piece of the Country Diary that was kind of floating around. It talks about the merry wren. This is not the merry wren, but the piece just fit, you know, on the page, and so I just used that to sort of fill in that little space. So that's my first botanical spread, and once I finished that, I'm thinking, oh, I want to do another one. I could have just gone through the whole book and just filled it with botanical spreads. So I started with this image of the rose, which was a book page that had been in my book page pile of pages that hadn't been used in journals. I found this napkin that, you know, kind of matches the rose, and so I just glued the napkin down. So I just used glue stick in the background and make sure it's well covered with glue, and then just gently spread it on, and just makes it really easy for if you want to do napkin journaling but you don't want to do all the wet glue, and you know it's quite sort of tricky and can be fiddly and messy. You can just use a glue stick, put your napkin down, don't cut it until you're finished, and so put it on and go over the edges, smooth it down. Actually better to wait for the glue to dry before you try trimming it, because it tends to peel back up again. And so yeah, just trim it off. You can tear it off, or you can cut it with scissors. I don't think it matters really. I mean, you can get the scissors and you can rough the edges up too if you want it to look more rough than that, not so neat, but I don't mind the neat look. So then when I've done that, I just added this lace which matched the sort of lace in the background of the napkin, and I kept it white deliberately. Some people might have, you know, think to coffee dye it or ink it to sort of tone in, but I wanted it white. I wanted it to have that sort of brightness to it. That's just what I chose. On the other side, I did ink it so that it toned in with this page better, so it wasn't bright white. So that was quite simple really, and didn't take that long to do. And then I did another one differently. So this one, I had the idea of wanting to use the Sizzix Thinlits, which are these die cuts, which you can get from Amazon and different places like that. And they're it's very handy. If you've got a die cut machine, they're very handy to have, because you can cut the dies out in any papers that you want, any colors that you want, and it will go with any project. So I have like a box of them, all different colors. So yeah, I just have them pre-cut. That way you can just go to your box and get the color that you want. So that was, you know, my idea for this page was to have a different type of botanical. But when I put them on the page, I felt they were a little bit dull looking. They don't look too dull on the actual camera, I have to say. On in real life, I felt that the colors weren't bright enough to go with all the busyness of the rest of the page. So I decided to emboss them, and that made them a lot brighter. But then when I embossed this one went really dark, and I didn't like having multiple dark ones on there, so I only had the one small one. I picked this colour originally because it matched the, it's all tangled up. They do get tangled. You have to have a bit of patience with these things. Let's untangle them. There you go. So I originally picked this colour to match this page, and as you can see, so the idea was originally I was going to have them all this colour in here, so I could have done that. However, this colour didn't match the previous page, so I was torn how to do this, because I really wanted to do this concept. So that's why I went over to the red and chose to have the red colour to try to bring in a reason, or not matching, but at least toning in. Otherwise it would have been very purple. So I embossed the die cuts. I cut out, fussy cut around some of the book page, not book page, scrapbook paper. And this was the scrapbook paper from the background, which you can't really see, but it has botanicals on it as well, like roses and things. I just wanted something fairly neutral there, and inked around those edges just to sort of give them a highlight. And then added the bird and the butterflies. The bird is from Roxy Creations. I don't know which butterfly it's from, but I know the bird is from Rachel's Roxy Creations on Etsy, where you can get printouts or digitals of lots of different birds. And I just picked that one because I thought, well, it's in the ground, so it's walking around. So I don't know what kind of bird. I don't know what kind of bird it is. So yeah, they're the botanicals. Sort of botanicals 3 ways. And, you know, obviously you can keep going. There's many different ways to do botanicals. Okay, so then the next one I did was vintage, and I did 2 different types. Well, that's the details one. I've already done a video on the details page. So I didn't like the background page here. It had lines, blue lines on it, so I got rid of the page and covered it up with an actual vintage book page. It's a real book page, not a printout. It's a really lovely paper. It's a shame I've actually covered up much more of it than I intended, but it is, you know, really old actual book page. You can see it's cracking and peeling, so I've left that there to show that it's not a coffee dyed paper. It's actually, you know, real book page in vintage. And then just vintage pieces. This is vintage, very old music paper from the 1900s, the Italian writing book, and that's just a coffee dyed doily. And then these pieces, yeah, just a bit of a French theme, just pieces that I had. I don't actually remember where pretty much any of them come from. I know that The Days Were Too Short was just from a Reader's Digest book page that I came across, but I just liked the style of the writing, because it doesn't look too modern. And I just thought that, well, if you were in this Parisian lifestyle, I don't know, the days would be fun, is what I'm thinking, is what I meant by that. So I just liked her dress, so I just picked this one, which is of Paris, you know, just the yellow and the, was it kind of apricot peach colour? Yeah, so I just picked those colours to sort of tone in with the dress. This I think is from Your Creative Studio. I think that one is too, and I think the label is from AliExpress, and I think these were from books, and this is, I don't know where this was from, digital of some sort that I had. So that was my Parisian vintage page. I kind of wanted to do the similar sort of thing, but so vintage doesn't have to be in brown. So then I thought, well, okay, what else can I do that's a bit different? So everything on here is again French, so that it's matching in with this page, and so it's kind of themed. It's in, you know, the graphics are in vintage style. Obviously we've got Eiffel Tower, we've got cafe, she's drinking a cup of coffee. I thought the hat, you know, the Parisian hat type thing, just all kind of, you know, lace. It's all, to me, Parisian. So that's my vintage spread, like a different way of doing vintage. So you can do it in the browns, you can do it in the black and white, you can do it in any kind of style that, you know, you could do it in this sort of inking type style. This would be vintage, that's vintage. The other idea I have, which I haven't done yet, is of course anything from, you know, 1980s, 1990s and back, anything that's 20 years old is considered vintage. So you could do 1960s, 40s, 70s, 90s even. I did see one video, I think, who she chose to do 1990s, because technically anything from 2000 back is vintage. So you can do it on specific items that are considered to be in the vintage era, or items that you own or have that are from the vintage era, or depicting the vintage era. The options are endless with the word vintage. So that one should be very, very easy for for everyone who's in the junk journaling world to be able to do vintage. Just pick anything from pre-1999 and yeah, you're good to go. In whatever style you like, really. So it's a few days, maybe a week or so, since I last filmed the vintage junk journal July pages. This is where we were up to. And since then I've done another vintage page. I had this idea that we, or me, many of us, are from the vintage, what is now called the vintage era, which we've got vintage clothing, which is generally 60s, 70s, maybe 80s kind of era. Being that I come from the 60s, as do many of us, I was thinking about my childhood and my the things that I loved about my toys and things like that. And I also wanted to do a project on paper dolls. So I was searching for some paper dolls that were similar to the ones that we used to play with as a child, that I used to get. You know, I used to love my normal dolls. I had a Cindy, I had a walking doll, and I had paper dolls. So anyway, I went searching and I found past paper pretties on Etsy. And there's a few here that I purchased about 6 of them because I love them so much. There's one of Bewitched, which I absolutely love. And I thought about doing this one because they are definitely vintage looking clothing, are they not? You know, like I may even do a spread and put Samantha in my journal because I absolutely loved that TV program. There was this one as well, party dresses, which I might use for a different project. But this is the one that's left over of the Baby's First Steps, which was the one that I chose. They've got paper dolls sets that you can download and print from the 1930s to the 1980s. It's just amazing. So this is the one I chose to do in this journal. And the reasons were that I had this particular doll. Now, this one is the Mattel's Baby's First Step. Now, I don't know if in the UK we got this doll, but my doll was very similar, and it was like it was a walking doll. It had closing eyes, so when you lays down it would close its eyes to sleep. My doll's hair wasn't straight, it was kind of curly, but it could just be an artist impression of the doll. Anyway, so this is the Baby's First Step from Mattel's kind of paper doll version of the doll. Now this side is just me. That's me. I looked a lot like that. I had always wore a hairband. I didn't necessarily have a flower in my hair, but I always had a hairband. I had a dress very similar to this. It was pink. It had kind of white stripes here, and it came down in like an A-frame, and it had a bow, pink velvet bow in the middle. Oh, I just loved that dress. And so this, you know, picture was just so me. I just loved it. I remember my doll not working, so I don't know how old I was when I got the doll. I might have been quite young, and maybe I broke it because I wasn't very gentle with my toys. So I don't remember her ever actually working. She never walked as far as I can remember, but I'm sure she did when I first got her, but I must have broken her, I don't know. Anyway, I'm reminiscing. It's a junk journal. I'm not supposed to be reliving my old childhood, but this is what's happened when I've done this page. So I decided to decorate it with toys that I actually had. So I know we all had a teddy bear, but I tried to find one that was similar to the one that I had. It was a different colour to that, but it was that kind of traditional teddy bear looking. I had this spinning top, identical to this. It was had triangles. It was one of those tin ones. Loved it. I had a pogo stick. I don't know what colour mine was. It might have been pink or blue. No, I can't remember. We used to go to the seaside in England, and I remember playing with the buckets and sand and making sandcastles. And we always used to get one of those pinwheels. So I remember that. I remember our Jack-in-the-Box. I don't know if it was actually my Jack-in-the-Box or my sister's, but I do remember a wind-up Jack-in-the-Box. So this page is basically me, my doll, and my toys. And I just love it. This side is the paper doll part. Now, I used to always have paper dolls as well. I didn't have like a baby paper doll. My paper dolls were like Barbie dolls, except Barbie wasn't invented. So they were just girls from memory, girls and clothes. We used to get a new one. I don't know if we got one every week, but maybe every few months when the dolls got torn, I would get a new one from Mum. Would get me a new book. I assume it didn't cost very much. So I remember having them. I didn't have this one, but I just thought this was so cute. I wanted to do the baby's first step doll. So I made her interactive. I didn't want her glued down, like, this is just a page glued down. So I made her interactive so we can take her off the page. So she's just tucked in there on the belly band. And then, of course, we can change her clothes. So, as you know, with paper dolls, they're just hooked over the back and you can just change the outfits. So we have all these outfits that I've made. So obviously that one, I put a bow on it. This one, I've put some liquid drops on the red. It's in that would be like a blue velvet dress. Absolutely lovely. This one I just added some lace and some liquid drops. And this one just has liquid drops. I couldn't find any lace to sort of work on this. And this one just has a ribbon with liquid drops. And this one has some fancy lace because it had the fancy lace trim underneath. So I just thought I'd add the actual fancy lace trim onto the dress. And then there's more toys on this page. So obviously I had dolls, another teddy, blocks. I loved colouring in. We used to fold paper and cut them out. I remember doing that with Mum. And here I've got these Russian dolls, which I didn't actually have, but I always wanted some Russian dolls. So I've given myself some Russian dolls. I remember having a rubber duck. Most kids still do. More crayons, another Jack in a Box. I had a kite. I remember it didn't fly. Do you remember the kite blocks? I assume I had. And another teddy. And a doll's house, which I don't think I had, but I always wanted. Can't remember having a doll's house, but I love doll's houses. So we can just choose whatever dress we want to put on our doll and dress her up. Just hook those over her shoulder. And then we just tuck her in, a little foot goes in there, and then we just push her down. And she's got a new dress on, and we can just interactively play. Go back to childhood and play dolls. Oh, I just love it. Don't you love it? Anyone who played dolls like I did, oh my goodness. I need to do it so I can see all the little fancy bits. That's why I'm changing it around. So I just keep all of those dresses in there. And each time I come to the page, I can change her dress. I love it. It's made me so happy to do this page. It's great to keep up that sort of, or remember that tradition. And I know young kids, I think today, would not have any idea why or how, understand why we enjoyed our paper dolls. But I don't know, we came from an era where the simple things, I guess there wasn't, there wasn't like a lot of money, abundance of money. You didn't get toys every day. You didn't get everything you asked for. You didn't, I once don't get. Oh, that's a saying I remember. I once don't get. Love it. So, yeah. But, obviously I did have lovely toys and I love this. I just love this doll. I loved it. So I feel really happy that I can preserve the doll in this journal and have that memory. And yeah, thanks to the past paper pretties. I wish I knew. We'll have to ask Mum if she remembers if my doll was Mattel's Baby's First Step. Certainly the doll that I've researched did the same things that my doll did. You hold her hand, she would walk, she had batteries. Both dolls were the same that way. Both dolls had closing eyes, but definitely in a very similar shape and size. As I say, this one has straight hair. My doll's hair was like nylon, and it kind of went in half curls. So it was. I remember trying to brush it, but doll's hair just never quite brushes properly. So I remember being a little bit frustrated because it was hard to make it tidy. And I have a confession to make. I cut my doll's eyelashes. And I think I cut a fringe. I'm not sure if I did or not. But I still remember to this day being told off by Mum, why did you cut your doll's eyelashes? And to this day, I don't know why. Why would you cut the eyelashes off your doll? She had lovely long eyelashes which closed when she slept. It must have broken Mum's heart to have this doll that she'd bought me, and I've cut the eyelashes off. So sorry. I don't know why. I guess I just wanted to see what happened if I did. Maybe I thought they'd grow back. I don't know. I don't know. But she did have such lovely long eyelashes. And I remember after being told off for cutting her eyelashes, I remember feeling sad and confused. It's like, why did I cut the eyelashes off? And oh well. I don't think I looked after my toys as well as I could. But they did get used, they were loved, and I have fond memories, and isn't that the main thing? So yeah, it's my reminiscing page, vintage, because everything that I remember is vintage. Have a look at the Past Paper Pretties website or Etsy shop. There's bound to be a paper doll that you like, because she just has so many, from the 1930s to the 1980s. As I say, I think I bought about 6 different ones. You might find another paper doll project coming up in the future. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing, interacting with me on my channel, on my videos, liking, all that kind of thing. It's just so wonderful to have people interact with me, and my channel's growing, and it's just so nice. It's lovely. I love the community. I love being involved in the junk journal world. I love making the journals, and I love making videos. So it makes me happy. So I hope this has given you a bit of an idea of something else you can do, other choices. You don't have to do traditional vintage. You don't have to only do one page. You can do more than one page. It's your journal. You do what you want in it. The prompts are just there to prompt you to do something in your journal. And this is what I wanted to do with the baby first step doll. I don't want to say goodbye to it. It's like I feel attached to it. All right, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.